freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is our 2020 year in golf superlatives. It is going to be excellent. Producer Jacob has got all types of great categories for us to run through. And joining me for this episode, Kyle Porter is here. What's up, KP?
I'm excited. I did some research for this, dug up a few things that I know we've all forgotten about. And yeah, I'm pumped. Let's do
it. Greg DuCharme is here. Hey, Greg.
And we talked about this a little bit the other day, but it's so interesting to think back on this year and how much there's so much to forget because so much happened. So I can't wait to hear some of these things Kyle has.
It's so good.
I can't wait.
One of these categories where I want to spend 65 minutes on, but we'll get to that later. Mark Immelman is here, rounds out the crew. Hey, Mark.
Well, I'm with you guys. How's it, boys? And Greg, I'm with you. I'm going to sit back and listen to Kyle because to prepare for this thing, it took a little while, honestly, because stuff happens and then you quickly forget it because you're dealing with the next challenge at hand. And to go back and look through the year, and I was looking at the calendar on the PGA Tour website going, now, did that happen? That event happened, and where were we, and where was I, and what happened? And so it was sort of a step back in the time machine, which was weird this year because it was the year was just so there was so much upheaval, really.
There are sometimes we just fire up the outline and whatever Jacob has in there, we just talk about golf for 30 or 40 minutes. This one, you got to dig a little bit. You got to do a little bit of research. So let's jump into it. Biggest surprise of 2020. I took a very strategic approach to this, Greg, but we'll start with you. Your biggest surprise of 2020.
So there are many different ways you can go with this. Yes. One way is you can come up with a player, right? There are a lot of players who had surprising rises. And my example of that may be, and this includes a little bit of the 2019 fall season, but Harris English would be my surprise player of the year. But overall, my surprise of the year is that you could go so many different ways. There was no Ryder Cup. There was no Open Champ. You know what? There is no Open Championship.
That's
my biggest surprise. The Open Championship, Kyle, you pointed this out, and it's one of my favorite takes of the entire year. And it may even win another superlative. The Open Championship has been canceled for 4 reasons. One, the very first reason was young Tom Morris took the belt. He won 3 times in a row. They had no trophy.
Okay, he wouldn't give it back.
But he wouldn't get it. They just said, you know what? We don't even have a trophy. We're not even playing this anymore. It's crazy.
And that was a policy. It was a real policy. So that's one. The next number 2 and number 3 are the world wars, and number 4 is COVID-19. So that is surprising.
It's insane.
That was very good. Well done there, big boy. That was good stuff.
Okay, well, Mark, now you have to follow it since you tried to.
Well, that's going to be hard. The one that still blows my hair back, I'll get to in a second, but I want to go this way. And Greg was very sort of, thoughtful on this. I looked through some of the events and stuff, and I just remember before we locked down, Rory McIlroy, us on this podcast, we were talking about a guy that hadn't finished outside the top 6 in like 7 events in a row. It wasn't if he was going to win. It's like, how much is he going to win by, and which is he going to win the Masters at a Cantor? And I mean, all this was the conversation. Then the lockdown happens, then the comeback, and we all pontificating, is Rory going to get back in the saddle? And now looking back on the season, here's a guy that hasn't won worldwide in 2020. And that is astounding to me. That is surprising to me. But even more surprising, having been a part of the road show and the circus that was the return to golf and the tour, I'm still surprised. And this will live with me for as long as I draw breath, that there were so few players and so few caddies. And in our television compound, no people tested positive for COVID-19. I mean, that's, if you had asked me this when we went into this stretch of events, what would you think would be good? I'd be like, if we get by with 10, 20, 30 people coming short and falling prey to COVID, what was there? 10 players, I think, just a handful of caddies. And in our TV compound, not one member of our CBS broadcast team tested positive for COVID-19 for 17 weeks. That's just unfathomable.
Yeah, I remember we had conversations and we talked about this a little bit in the previous episode of like how our minds changed, and we were like, how many positive tests is too many, right? Like, what's the line? We had that conversation at one point. So you're right, Mark. Relative to either other sports or obviously the populations that these tournaments were being held in, much lower for the professionals than the general population. I took a surprise path of, we try to prognosticate a little bit on this show. And I thought the most surprising victory, and there were a couple to choose from, was Jim Herman winning Wyndham.
Yeah.
The 19 events before Jim Herman finds victory on the best golfing circuit on the planet. He doesn't have a single top 25. He missed 11 of those 19 cuts, finds a way to put it together for 4 straight days and come out victorious. Like literally, I was stunned. So that fits my surprising moment of 2020.
It's a good one.
Was there anybody that had Jim Herman on their DFS ticket for the week? Because they must clean the house.
I don't think
been
so.
a bad pick.
I'm pretty sure the winning lineup, it happens like once a year where it does not have the winner in it, which is like crazy.
It would have been a bad pick. It's like it reminds me of the Michael Kim at when he won at John Deere, right? You can't find a reason why. So the result doesn't always determine the quality of the pick, right? It's like me picking Bern Wiesberger over
Christian Bezaden. So Greg, every time Greg has to mention that bet, his brain explodes and his whole thing freezes up.
Have you guys looked at Michael Kim's finishes since the John Deere?
He's finished he's either missed the cut or finished like last in a no cut event in every single one, right?
It's unbelievable. I don't understand. I think you did gain like 15 strokes putting that week or something.
It doesn't matter. He won by like he also ran away with it.
It's really weird. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's sort of like who's the guy that won Wells Fargo like 7 years ago?
Eric Ernst.
Yeah.
Wow. Mark had that on the top of his tip of his tongue.
You asked me about the older.
I didn't even hear it.
Help you with that stuff.
I remember. I feel bad about this tweet. I think it was like my second year of covering golf. I said it was when Duffy Waldorf was playing his last Masters, and I said Duffy Waldorf and Derek Ernst are both playing their last Masters this year.
It was true though, right?
It's true, but I've tried to get kinder since then. That wasn't very nice.
Oh, they were
glad you're still here.
A Christmas card list, but
Yeah.
They need your new address. Kyle, your biggest surprise of 2020, please.
I got so many. Okay, so you could go Francesco Molinari just not playing golf. That was so weird. So I misused the Vince Carter graphic or GIF at one point.
Oh, did you?
At the Phoenix Open for Finau, and then he didn't win.
Webb 2 down with 2 to play got him.
Yeah.
I did not remember that. That's so good.
You guys have encouraged me to be aggressive with it. I got a little too aggressive.
You misusing that GIF or using it too early is not really a surprise to me, bro.
When else have I misused it?
I'm just kidding with you, man. I love you.
I made up for it like 5 years ago when I called Spieth on Friday afternoon at the Masters when he won it.
What have you done for me lately there, Kyle?
Well, when he went wire to wire.
Yeah, and he shot like 64 in round 2. Okay, I gotta move on. So I think this is a more somber one, but Tiger finding out about Kobe Bryant dying from his caddy.
And it was on TV.
That was insane. Like that was like I mean, COVID happened after that, but that was such a surreal moment when Joe LaCava walked, and you knew exactly what he was saying because he walks up and Tiger goes, Kobe Bryant, and you're just like, oh, what is happening? Like that was such a surreal day. But I think my actual answer is, especially considering all of our picks, was Bryson winning the U.S. Open by 6. We all of us said, we asked the question, who's not going to win the U.S. Open? Me, Greg, and Rick all said, definitely not Bryson. There's no way he's winning at Wingfoot. And then he wins by 6. That was it. It feels like normal now, but I feel like in the moment it was kind of shocking.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right, let's be quick on the next one because there's other ones I want to spend more time on, and this is already on pace for a 9-hour pod. I love it. Whose stock rose the most? So, Greg, you were kind of alluding to this. I went with Daniel Berger, who literally went from 154th to 13th in the world, and I think is a likely candidate to continue to stay in the top 20 with kind of the way that his game is played. So I think that's a big rise in stock. You mentioned Harris English. Is that kind of your similar answer here?
Yeah, absolutely. Harris English is my answer here. And I had this in front of me before I got kicked off a moment ago. So Harris English went from 183 to 29. So it's comparable to Daniel Berger. But the thing that stands out to me about this is he didn't win. Daniel Berger got a win. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
QBE shootout. You don't want to count that one for him and Cooch?
Well, are you getting world golf ranking points for that? I mean, it's not the Hero World Challenger.
Probably.
Here.
Yeah, we found out this year that the world golf rankings and what you get points for makes no sense whatsoever.
And none for a Champions Tour event. That's still PGA Tour Champions. Still bothers me. So anyway, I'm going to go with Harris English. And I think that part of that is there's still a climb. I think you're going to see him win very soon. And so to rise that far without winning is really impressive, and it marks the consistency that he showed all year.
Yeah, he piled up top 20s all year.
Every week, it seemed.
Mark, whose stock rose the most?
Well, I got a couple, 3 names. First off, anytime you're going from the Korn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour, your stock is rising. But Scotty Scheffler, I mean, to go from the Korn Ferry Player of the Year to the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year and be a week in, week out factor. I mean, a name that was mentioned when people were talking about potentially winning major championships. You got to reference Scheffler. Will Zalatoris, same deal, to earn your way onto the tour with that promotion. That deserves some sort of honorable mention, I guess. But my pick is a guy who got as high as 5th in the world and won 2 events, including a major championship. Colin Morikawa, I mean, he's gone from being a bright young star with a victory at the Barracuda to now a top 10er in the world with a major championship and a perennial favorite in every event he plays in. So for me, it's Morikawa without a shadow of a doubt.
I remember when he wins Barracuda and we're like, yeah, well, can he win a regular event? Okay. Then he wins Workday. All right. Can he do it in a major a couple weeks later? Right. Just PGA championship. No problem.
Yeah.
KP, stock rising. Who was it?
Yeah. I had Zalatoris also, and I had Morikawa. I think this time last year, I think we might've said this, but I definitely would have said Hovland and Wolf probably be a little bit better than Morikawa. And now you're like, I don't know. It might be Morikawa. And I think that his ceiling for me at least raised this year.
There was I think it was a 5-star rating and review on Apple iTunes. If you'd like to leave one and leave a comment or question, we can get to those who want us to re-rank the young guys. And I was like, yeah, that's going to have to be an episode at some point because I still don't know. Like we flipped through them 5 or 6 times this year, not knowing what order they'd be in.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is a good one. Tiger Woods, the Big Cats, 2020 grade. And Greg, we'll start with you. I feel like you're always a bit more optimistic on Tiger than, I don't know. We'll see. What grade do you give Tiger Woods on his 2020 year?
Well, man, I'm not optimistic on this. I mean, I think it's the challenge with grading Tiger is there's so much more than just this one year. Right. Correct. So to grade Tiger on this year, well, what did he do? His best finish was tied 9th in 2020 in the calendar year. He didn't really do anything else. Right. I don't think he finished inside the top 30 in any other event. So he didn't really accomplish anything. He didn't play a lot, understandably so. He didn't look particularly healthy. So there are still some questions here and there about his health, which I mean, I got to say it's a D, and that has a little bit of. I mean, this is for Tiger Woods. It's a failed season in a way because he didn't. Tiger's expectations are to win, right, and to contend in majors. So he didn't advance his career at all. Now that being said, does he have to? Not really. So it's hard to say Tiger failed this year, but you can't really go higher than a D in my opinion.
I gave it a D-. So we're on the same page there. And I thought the only way he could get an F is if he didn't play at all. Now he didn't play a lot. And I think you nailed it, Greg. The problem with Tiger is expectations. He does not get the luxury of low expectations. He probably feels like, what grade would he give himself? Probably pretty low when you have one top 10 and it came at the end of January. Like that's not good. I also kind of one of the biggest stories that we didn't talk about because the world flipped on its head was that Tiger didn't play the Players. He wasn't ready, right? That was the statement, Mark. It came out from his agent. He wasn't ready to go. Obviously, everything else in the world happens, but that would have been sounding the alarm for Tiger Woods to sit out this huge event.
Well, yeah, as you look back, and that's a good point because he pulled out the week prior in Bay Hill as well, which is like Tiger Woods is essentially the mayor of that Dr. Phillips area there in Orlando. So I remember being shocked when I saw that. But as you look through the Tiger Woods year, I'm sure Tiger would give himself an F. If Tiger Woods as the young man graded himself by winning major championships, and beyond that tie for ninth in the at Torrey Pines, he went 68th. Tied 40th, tied 37th, tied 58th, and then tied 51st. So, I don't have it in me to give Tiger Woods an F, but I'm with you. D- is sound because there were, and the reason why I'm saying that is there were moments where, like, he drove the ball fantastically well whenever he played. And there was once or twice I called him that the swing looked uninterrupted and free, and he was hitting the ball well. He just couldn't put stuff together. So the parts of the puzzle were there, but he just never fit the thing together. And he said as much as he went into the latter portion of the season, then missed the cut at the US Open, and then had two iffy finishes in the last two events, including the Masters. So I'm giving him a D-. The pieces are there, but it just wasn't constructed.
Yeah, maybe we can lump this in, KP, with one of the biggest surprises that Tiger Woods ranked 187th in strokes gained putting in the 2020 year. Like, the guy with the magic flat stick couldn't roll the rock.
Yeah. I agree with Mark. Like, there were moments where like, oh, he's driving it great, or his swing looks really good, or the short game was good this week, but it was never in the same week. He had multiple holes in his game all the time. I did give him I've got a C-. I thought he looked pretty good in the match too, which was
so he gets a bump for that.
Yeah, that was really important to me. So yeah,
he did look good. That's the best he looked all year, I think. All right, we got to talk non-majors. We've got to talk about majors. My favorite category on the other side, best Twitter moment. Oh boy, there are some really good ones there. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partner. Best non-major. I'd like to start with a little anecdote. And KP, you're actually involved in my little anecdote here.
I know where you're going.
I have the work day.
Yeah.
So pull back the curtain a little bit just to kind of say what happens. We go on CBS Sports HQ. We talk about the winner. We do the congratulations. How does this impact his year? Is he the player of the year? Is, whatever, all that stuff. We are suiting up, getting ready to go. We're about to crown JT the winner. We're going to do the whole spiel. And he bogeys 2 of his last 3 holes. He gets into a playoff. And now, KP, we are stuck on air live during the playoff. And however long this thing's going, it's going. And that's when we saw JT drop a 55-foot putt on Morikawa on the first playoff hole. Then Morikawa backs it up with a 24-foot. But it was just all of the golf was great, and then just the way that you and I were kind of consuming it, I was like, this is unbelievable stuff.
It was. I can't remember who the host was. It might have been Hakeem Dermish, and he kept. Whoever it was kept kicking it to us for her specific. And I'm like, where's Mark at? Mark needs to, this is not me. I can't
on the golf course watching it live. Big
I can't do this. This is Mark's. Mark is way better at this than I am. But it was incredibly fun because it felt like we were, and maybe this is how you feel every week, Mark. It felt like we were we're not participating, but it felt like we were a part of the event, which was really cool. I had that on my list as well. I had the Memorial just because the ending. I've got another tidbit on that later. BMW ending was insane with DJ and Rahm. I thought the 3M was kind of cool with Michael Thompson and just kind of how he closed it out. But my number one that I'm going to go with, because I don't think any of the rest of you guys will pick it because it feels like it happened 23 years ago, is Kapalua. JT, Reed, Xander playoff. And it was, I think that was the tournament where Cantlay dropped the F-bomb on 18 and like everybody freaked out.
Well, that's good. Yes, that is it. And it's he also referenced them drinking Mai Tais, whoever those people are. Yeah, that's the most anybody's ever heard him say.
So JT winning, and I remember Brendan Porat dropped a tweet that said the decade of JT begins, and there began my bet of JT winning 25 times. So that was a really, I thought, fun way to start the year.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think Xander 3-putted on 18 to get into that, to force that playoff, and then JT comes out victorious. Greg, your best non-major of 2020.
Man, going back before the layoff kind of opens up a whole new world. It's like a ladder.
Yeah.
So I mean, like now all of a sudden I'm thinking of Adam Scott at the Genesis. I'm thinking of Webb Simpson beating Tony Finau in that playoff. That was the Waste Management was great. It was the nice guy playoff. But I think the BMW is the best. And I mean, if you have world number 1 and world number 2, Jon Rahm and Dustin Johnson, in a playoff event on the toughest setup on a great golf course, going head to head the way they did and executing the shots the way they did, I think that's the best non-major of the year, partly because it felt like a major. I mean, that was a major championship quality field, event conditions, and ultimately both of your champion and your runner-up were major championship caliber players. So I think having those two heavy hitters go head-to-head like that is so rare that's the best non-major of the year. Maybe the best tournament of the year.
It was certainly a heavyweight bout with also an unbelievable ending. So yeah, that checks off a lot of boxes as well. Mark, best non-major of the year.
Well, again, I guess I'm coming at this from my own personal experiences. Mexico is always fun to go to because I love tacos and margaritas. So it was nice being down there in Mexico City for that event. It's a great golf course. But there were a few there post, us coming back from the lockdown that stood out. Obviously, being a part of the event at Colonial was special. It's such a historic, sort of iconic venue. And to watch Morikawa nearly win there. I mean, I had him in the final round and missed that short 5-6 foot putt in the lot to go to a playoff. That stood out. But you talk about an event that was almost a major. Workday was electric, even though there were no fans there. To be on the course and watch those two go at it the way they did and make those putts was crazy and it was memorable. But the Memorial the week after, it was our second week in Dublin, Ohio. I was in the same hotel room for 2 weeks, which was horrid. And then just to watch the whole thing unfold, and the golf course, Mr. Nicholas was letting it go because it's being redone for the next year's Memorial. And so we had major championship conditions. Fairways were firm and fast. The greens were hard. And Jon Rahm showed his class. And then I must give kudos to a colleague of ours, Amanda Ballyhonis, how she dealt with that thing afterwards when Rahm didn't know of the penalty and she had to ask him about the penalty. And it was very well done by everyone over there. And Jack's event, everyone will always tell you it's their favorite on the tour. That's not a major. And for me, it was probably the best one of the bunch.
Rahm found out from Amanda Baliotis that penalty was being assessed, which is unbelievable stuff. And we're watching it live, and I'm just, my jaw is on the
I was standing in the walkway where they come off the green and they go underneath the clubhouse to scoring. And I'm watching this from about 50, 60 feet away with my spotter, Greg. And I'm like, this guy is going to explode. And she just handled it like a complete pro. It was memorable.
It was like he was doing the quick math in his head. Like, how many did I win by? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I won't lose it here. All right. Well, we've done non-majors. So KP, major championship, best major. You've got 3 to choose from. Take your pick.
Yeah. It was kind of a low key, not very dramatic major year. There were a lot of there's a lot of cool stuff that happened. Just the endings weren't necessarily great. So I guess I got to go PGA. You know, when Morikawa hit the shot on 16 and then kind of rolled to the win, it felt like, oh yeah, Morikawa. But it was kind of chaotic for about a couple hours, I would say, maybe 2.5 hours, where DJ was, I mean, you've got Matthew Wolff should have won. I will continue to say that for the next 5 years.
Rory was charging. JT finished. I mean, it was poppers. Yeah,
there was a lot going on. I think Finau climbed up there to T4 or something like that. So I would go PGA just because it was probably the most fun ending of the 3.
Okay, I'm gonna abstain, and I'll save mine for our next category here. Greg, your best major of 2020.
I have to agree. I think it was the PGA Championship, which I would be at the beginning of the year, I would be surprised that that was the best. Looking at the venues, you have a place like Winged Foot, you have a Masters, which always delivers. I think to say that the best one would come from Harding Park would be a little bit surprising. But the competition, the shots Morikawa hit down the stretch, Brooks Koepka getting into the mix, making the comments that he did. There was so much action around that event leading into Sunday that I think it was I do think it was the best major of the year. Despite the fact that, and that doesn't take away from the other two at all. I thought the U.S. Open at Winged Foot was great, and Dustin winning the Masters was phenomenal too. But the PGA Championship was the most compelling all the way to the end.
Yeah, I guess the other two were kind of runaways, right? Like, how many did DJ win by 6 and Bryson won by 6, both from 6 shots? Is that right?
I
think so.
DJ won by 5.
Yeah,
5 for DJ, 6 for Bryson.
Mark, I have a sneaking suspicion you might choose a major championship in your neck of the woods.
You know what? It's hard for me to go against that, but I'm going to.
Okay.
I was there for the PGA Championship, and you talk about frenetic. And Kyle, I will argue you until death that Matthew Wolff would not have won that event, even if he birdied the last. I was there. I was scheduled to call the penultimate.
I said should have, not would have.
Okay, well, I'm disagreeing with you.
He missed like 5 6-footers.
So what? You have to make putts coming down the stretch to win? I thought it was strokes gained driving, wasn't it? No, I'll stop.
Yeah.
You know the point, and you continue to argue the other side of it.
Okay.
Goes,
I
okay.
was supposed to be on the penultimate group, which was Morikawa. And Bryson's hit an approach shot on 2, and my producer says to me, go and pick up Bryson and Finau. They're going bananas. You got Colin Morikawa who's sort of lurking around the place. All of a sudden, he pitches in there on 14, and then hits that tee shot on 16 and wins it. But the reason really, I mean, golf aside, for me, going back to San Francisco was special. There's so much history in that town. And I understand the other two venues are iconic, but I just love it that my buddy Rick Gehman can go and play a major championship venue just a few weeks after they've played a PGA Championship that had a sensational finish. So for me, it was also the PGA in San Fran.
Well, thank you, Mark. That was part of my reasoning. So I'll lump this in with our next category, which is shot of the year. And I'm completely with you, Mark. I'm a sucker for a muni, right? You give me TPC Harding Park that any Joe Schmo like myself can walk out there and try to recreate the Colin Morikawa shot, which let me tell you, did not go the same way for me as it did for him. It's unbelievable stuff. It was a great finish. And then not only the fact that you get this young star, I mean, there was so much greatness coming out of the PGA Championship, and that transitions to my shot of the year, the shot on 16. I mean, I stood there a couple weeks later, and we were playing almost the dead same number, and I don't even know. And I say this a lot when I see the pros. I don't know how they hit any of these shots. With everything they do is unbelievable. That shot to me on 16, I don't know how he did it. It's unbelievable, Mark.
Yeah, if I might build on that, because I had the group behind him. So I'm standing on 15 green, and there was a wait there because of the drivable 16th, and it's cold, it's misty. I mean, it was horrifically cold out there. And you've got into left to right, which for the right-hander is the hardest wind to play in. And Morikawa likes to fade the golf ball. And you've got nothing but disaster down the left and those cypress on the right. And when this thing left the club face, I remember looking at this going, that's going to be good. And then you didn't hear anything, but it just looked like it was never going to leave the flag. So that shot was special for me, and I considered that. But there were two in the season's final major that will live with me for a long, long time. And one was the pitch shot on number 11 that Dustin Johnson hits in the final round. That was just top quality, with his technique off that tight lie. You're playing to a green working away from you. It's sort of nip and tuck at that stage. It could go anyway. And he hit that pitch shot up there to a few feet and made it. And then gets up there on 12. I still know the number, 152 yards. And he can hit pitching wedge there, probably. And he could hit an 8-iron about 185 if he wants to. And he takes this little 2-finger 8-iron, hits it straight through the wind to hole high. And it was one of the great iron shots I've seen in all of my time, because it was so timely, it was so well struck, it was so well flighted. I mean, I'm sure if you had to ask Dustin what he would think for the year, that 8-iron would stand out. And for me, it was by far and away. I mean, there's not even an equal. How good that shot was that he hit there.
Yeah, your description of that, I mean, he was in complete control of his game all week long, but that is such a great example of it. Kyle, your shot of the year, please.
I've got some Matthew Wolf putting stats here if anybody wants them.
I think that's a different episode.
I'll send them later.
He hasn't been listening. You've been researching the last bit.
I had a bunch. Reed on the 17th in Mexico was awesome. The Mexico event was kind of low-key great. It was really good. Bryson was involved. It was really fun. Sergio's shot where he made eagle at the Sanderson was incredible.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Rahm's putt at the BMW was just I mean, you can't make that putt. You can't make DJ's putt either. And they both made them.
Yeah.
That was wild. But I got to go with Morikawa. I mean, the drive on 16, it very rarely do you get like singular shots that you're like, hey, that won a major championship. And granted, there are 268 other shots or whatever. So that's not the one that necessarily you have to do all the other stuff as well. But that one's going to stand out 15 years from now where we say, hey, remember the drive Collin Morikawa hit on 16 at Harding Park. So I got to go with that one.
So for honorable mention, there's a couple of Rahm shots, the 66 footer, the putt we remember, but the chip, I think we might've referenced this earlier, right? At the Memorial,
yeah,
the bogey heard around the world. I mean, Rahm's got a couple of nominees on this list. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he does. And you could argue that he won 2 of the 5 best events of the year on those 2 shots.
Be hard to argue.
Yeah.
Be hard to argue. Greg, shot of the year.
Any tee shot Bryson hit. Yep. I would. So the one that really stands out to me was the bogey heard around the world. It was Rahm's little pitch shot from the rough there out of a nasty lie in difficult conditions in a moment when you're thinking the tournament's slipping away. It turned out, I mean, the dramatics afterwards kind of changed things. It became, maybe it took a little bit of the luster away, but in the moment, I think that was the best shot of the year.
There's no love for the 302-yard 8-iron that Kyle Berkshire hit the other day.
With Bryson behind him.
302-yard 8-iron.
Yeah, that's insane.
Is this
what
what
did
we
Bryson
want?
say? That's longer than tour average.
Is this what we want golf to be?
Speaking of Bryson, let's get into it. Favorite Bryson moment, and I have a partial list. Okay, this is from No Laying Up. This was tweeted September 20th, and this is not even the complete list of things that Bryson did this year, but just to recap, and I'm just going to read this verbatim here from No Laying Up. He gained 1 million pounds, became the longest in the game, fought some ants, made a 10, called out Koepka's abs, cooked bacon shirtless, said he wants to live to 130, yelled at a cameraman, had his caddy block a camera, berated a rules official, and oh, by the way, won a U.S. Open. It was a full year, and there were still 3 months after that, KP.
He said he wanted to live to 130, and that was like... That's like 11th on the list. That's crazy.
Well, he didn't just say he wanted to. He said it's possible, that they're doing the math behind all of this. And if you do X and Y, you're on your way.
One of the funniest things that wasn't on that list and wasn't really a big moment, but his first round, during the break, he gains all this weight and like it becomes this thing. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but the first round back was at Colonial, and he wore this shirt that made it look like he had a weight belt on. Do you remember that? It was like white on top and black right here. So
he was wearing black pants.
It looked like it almost looked like a girdle. It was incredible. I went with the ants. The ants thing. I think I was on HQ at the time, and I just went on this like 3-minute rant about.
Oh, we have a clip of that somewhere.
It might have gotten.
Yeah, it might not be there anymore.
Yeah, it might have gotten buried. That was insane, and he wasn't like. He was kind of right, like by the technicality of
he
the
was.
rule book, which was, I think, kind of the funniest part of it. But it just, the whole thing summed up everything about him, which is, I'm going to do everything within my power, within what I believe the rules kind of are within golf, to gain an advantage. I mean, that's like the Bryson ethos, right? But it was like the most hilarious way you could sum it up. So it served as both a microcosm for what he's trying to do, but also like a unintentionally humorous way to do it.
Yeah, there's so many. My two favorite are he would not start his US Open press conference until he got his Orgain in front of him, which I thought was hilarious. Which I thought was amazing. And then also he created an international conspiracy about which dog was at Olympia Fields, and whether it was Trigger or his dad or son Divot, and no one knows, right? I mean, it's just the guy found a way to put himself in the news, have us talk about it no matter what he was doing.
He broke shot link at Detroit.
Yeah.
And then he lost the ball on number 3 at the Masters and said, "Is this a lost ball if I can't find it?" Yes.
Greg, help us here. Help us try to figure out what the Bryson moment is.
Okay. So there are so many entertaining moments. And I have to be this guy. But my favorite Bryson moment is when he and his dad and his mom meet on Zoom after he wins the US Open. And look, all of these things are hysterical. I love the Ant moment. I laugh at all of these things too. You can't make it up. But ultimately, what Bryson did this year, I think, should inspire hope for us on a much more serious level. And he, at every step of the way, has been told that what he's doing is crazy, that he's crazy, largely because he is. But it works, and it's worked at every single level. And to make this change and to make this investment and go down this path for the purpose of getting better and solving the problem that he had. I mean, this guy hadn't had a top 10 in a major before this year. All of a sudden, a T4 and a win. And so I thought that was a really emotional moment and a happy moment. And that was my favorite moment because I think it means so much more than just Bryson winning the US Open. It inspires others, which I think is great. But I mean, look, arguing with Ants is Bryce. There was a moment at the memorial when he asked for a second opinion, and that was also great. Right. And then a third. No, I don't think that's right.
Ask for a fourth and a fifth.
Right. So those are great. They're great moments. But when he actually did it and accomplished it, I mean, that you could make a movie out of that. And somebody should do that.
How about setting up a driving range in his living room?
Yeah. Well, that was actually Chris Como's driving living room.
That's true.
To the whole Ant thing, I thought the way Stephen Cox came in, the PGA Tour rules official, eventually on the third opinion, he goes, "Bryson, that's enough now. Let's go." The way he dealt with it was just so appropriate. And for me, as you guys talked, everything's flooding back. And it occurred to me that a lot of the stuff that you guys were talking about, I was on the course covering Bryson. And I'm grateful to, because I never have to say a word when I've got Bryson DeChambeau's group, because all they do is they get the parab mic on him, and there's something entertaining that's going to come out, whether it's pre-shot or post-shot. And the 10 stood out to me because I just remember thinking, what on earth is he doing? Because I walked down there and I took a look at the lie, and you could see how he could propel the thing sort of over that little cross creek that meandered through the fairway, but then he just kept going. It was like tin cup down the left-hand side of 15 at Memorial. And so that stood out. What stood out too was how I put a video of a little kid on my Instagram post, and the little kid was athletic, and Bryson tweeted the kid and said, "Boom, man, keep it up," which I thought was very cool of him. And then, but the one that stands out still is the guy getting in the press room at Augusta National and going, "Oh, this place is a par 67 for me." And I was like, the world took a collective breath. And I was like, wow, Bryson. I mean, you've said some stuff this year and I've had the utmost admiration for him, but yikes, that was, that you were setting yourself up for failure there.
It's phenomenal. This is going to take a 6-part docuseries of Bryson's 2020 calendar year. I mean, I saw him at Genesis and he looked huge, and then he had the 91 days of no golf to even get, and I'm like, it's craziness. But I want to move on to my favorite category. This is best Twitter moment, and let me tell you, Golf Twitter had a year. Golf Twitter had a year, and I'm hoping Jacob's going to be able to pull up an image for me because I've got two here. But I want to start with the first one. And there was a this is all it is. There's a Golf Digest headline that says Phil Mickelson says he will use a 47.5-inch driver at the Masters.
This is so funny.
And there is a quote tweet from Lou Tire World, who I don't know who that is, but this is what he said. I can't even say this with their face. Hold on. This is like handing Stevie Wonder an Uzi. I cannot not laugh at this. This is so, I don't even know how people come up with like that is the perfect comparison. It is so hilarious. I love this so much. And then my other one, which is from Will Knights of the Fried Egg, is a side-by-side image of Victor Hovland and Amy Klobuchar. And it says, has anyone ever seen Amy Klobuchar and Victor Hovland in the same room? And this one, the reason why this is one of my best Twitter moments is because this one has stuck with me. Okay. Now, anytime I see either Victor Hovland or Amy Klobuchar, I think about this, right? They are identical twins. They have this little smirk on their face. I cannot. Like, look at that. Tell me that is not a striking resemblance. It's unbelievable.
That's really good.
That is good.
KP, you're our resident. You've got your finger on the pulse on all things golf Twitter. What stood out to you this year?
There were a ton. I think like just from an overall, so my favorite golf Twitter moment ever was Spieth at Birkdale. The hill, the drop, the driving. I mean, the whole thing was like, it was the greatest hour of golf Twitter ever. And I don't think it can be topped. But just from like a meme standpoint, it had to be Rahm at Memorial when he found out that he was being penalized, and he goes, and he made like 39 different, like he emoted in so many different ways with like two different faces that it was just, it was incredible. But maybe I could go forever, but another one that to me was really, really funny was, do you remember, and Mark referenced this earlier, at Memorial when they were clearing the greens, they were scraping the greens because they're redoing part of the course. And somebody said like CBS panned to like the greens were being cleared while the tournament was still going on, which was weird. And somebody said it looks like Sergio has been let loose on the front nine. You can see it right there.
If you're not watching this episode on YouTube, you should be, because producer Jacob is dropping all the tweets in here for you to see, and it is phenomenal stuff.
I said I'd love to see Phil play this hole, and it's like half a green and half dirt, and somebody said it looks like Sergio already did it. That one just, I don't know, that stuck with me for some reason.
We might need another. There's so many great ones. Greg, golf Twitter, anything that stood out to you?
I'm keeping this one in house, and so I'm just going to start reading, and you could maybe put a name to it, or
I know where this is going.
Doing some Phil research today, sitting here staring at the 40-win PGA Tour 5 major club, and it's amazing. You got Tiger 82-15, Snead 82-7, Nicklaus 73-18, Hogan 64-9, Palmer 62-7, Nelson 52-5, Hagen 45-11, Phil 44-5. One individual at least thought he was missing. But the line afterwards
So what happened here is Gary. I guess he's deleted this since.
Oh,
so,
he deleted it.
yeah, so Gary Player responded to this, and Kyle, you can probably quote this verbatim, but it's like, "Nice try, Kyle. Take your stats and shove them," or something like that.
Yeah. And then at the end, he said, "I wish you all the best."
And then Kyle responded with, "Greg, what's he say here?"
But did you ever win in Memphis?
This was the gift that kept on giving, because we've been referencing this for the last 6 or 7 months.
Yes. Actually, more like 16 months.
It's just it was. I thought it was brilliant in a way that, because look, you have the most respect for Mr. Player, and I think there was a little confusion with PGA Tour and international wins. It's not like you're discounting international.
I said PGA Tour in the tweet.
I know you did. I'm just saying. It's not the way you handled it. It wasn't disrespectful, and I didn't think of Mr. Player, and I know how much respect you have for him. So it was the way it was handled. I just thought was very entertaining. It's my favorite moment. I can't believe he's watching like that, you know?
Well, but think about that. Like, I remember being at the Masters in 2009, and I was sort of, I didn't have a ton of golf, like, historical knowledge. And so I was talking to my parents about Gary Player, all this different stuff. And, 11 years later, I'm interacting with this all-time historically elite golfer on this social media platform. And you're like, it becomes normal because we all do it every day, but you're like, this is really weird. Like, for this to be like a commonplace thing, and kind of cool.
I wonder when he deleted it.
Do you think he counts his closest to the pin at the Paynes Valley thing as a victory?
Oh boy, you're always trying to stir this up with him, Mark. Yeah.
I've got nothing. I'm going to be the wet blanket. And I'm going to step aside for you guys and Kyle.
All right, we're gonna start with you on favorite stat. I kind of took this a lot of ways. We throw out a lot of stats. Jay Ray, Justin Ray, always providing us with some good ones to talk about. But Mark, was there a stat this year that stood out to you?
I'm surprised you're even asking me this one, because I'm not as prolific on Twitter as our boy Kyle over there, and I certainly don't look at the statistics as much as what you guys do either. So I'm a bad one to ask, but I do remember at the Travelers Championship, Brendan Todd basically went 3 rounds and 3/4 or something without missing a fairway. And that for me is something, because you're playing on a golf course with angles off the tee and stuff, and to drive the ball that accurately for that extended period of time. And he was a factor in the tournament. In the end, Dustin Johnson was too much for him. But that driving exhibition that he put on, and they weren't just in the fairway, they were in the middle of the fairway. So I can't remember the exact number. I couldn't find it, but I just remember him hitting just a whole lot of fairways in a row, and it was off the charts.
Yeah. I was almost in paralysis trying to figure. There's so many great things here. Greg, I went with the Justin Ray, and this is not a stat relative to 2020, but he tweeted it out in 2020, so I'm counting it. And this is some real, stars aligning type of thing. So Jack's last Masters was 2005. Tiger won that. Jack's last U.S. Open was 2000. Tiger won that. Jack's last Open Championship was 2005. Tiger won that. And Jack's last PGA Championship was 2000. Oh, by the way, Tiger won that. It is like the real life passing of the torch. Like this is so good. And it's amazing. Impossible. First of all, it's impossible that all of these things aligned. And just the Jack to Tiger thing is so great. I love it.
The other one that really stuck out to me during the Masters was, and it didn't come into fruition, but the comparison between Tiger and Jack and their world ranking and their position and the years since and if Tiger had won the 2020 Masters, I think those would be more relevant because they were identical and the stars aligned. But that's part of the reason why Tiger gets a D- on the year.
Didn't Tiger and Jack play together I know they played together at 2000 at Valhalla, because there was like this like surreal, like they were walking up 18 together whenever the second round finished, and they went, I think 18 on Valhalla, Mark, it splits, right? Yeah. Like there's 2 different ways, and they were both going to, I don't know. It was just like this weird thing. So yeah, that's a I don't even remember J Ray tweeting that out. That's a great one.
Hey, I want to build on that quickly too, because now you got my mind going a bit. And our producer did come through with that. Brendan Todd hit 91% of the fairways that week. He missed 5, and they were all in the final round.
Pretty good.
But you talk about Tiger and the achievements and the statistics and stuff, and we're living in a time now where we've got guys who can complete the career Grand Slam, and how few folks have done it. Tiger Woods has done that 3 times. That he's won every major at least 3 times. I mean, that is just insanity.
Every Tiger stat I hear is more insane than the one before it. And anytime there's like a trivia question or whatever, the default guess is, if you don't know, it's just Tiger, right? I mean, he just owns so many of these. Kyle, your favorite stat in 2020?
So I've got 2. One I found, and one, of course, Justin Ray found. I'll go with J Ray's first. Matthew Wolff, first player since Ned Cosgrove, who could forget, at the 1880 and 1881 Open Championships to finish 4th or better in his first 2 major starts.
Wow.
Pretty good.
So I like the ones that put it into a historical context, right? And to kind of my point before, a lot of stats like that only go back to Tiger. It's the last person since Tiger, right? When you get past like that era, and especially when you get back into the 1860 and 1861, you're like, that's next level stuff. I love that.
I said on Twitter, said J Ray, I said Ned was a stud, and he said that he was born in 1819.
Wow. Think about that, dude.
Pretty wild. So anyway, the one that I found was, and this is not crazy or anything. I just thought it was interesting. So according to Data Golf, I went 5 years back, and I actually put this out today because I was looking at some Player of the Year stuff, which we're going to talk about in a second. The only 2 guys in the last 5 years, only 2 guys to have 4 seasons of where they gained 2 strokes or more. 4 times out of 5 years are DJ and JT. Nobody's done it all 5. DJ and JT did it 4 times, and Rahm did it 3 times. If you're at 2+ strokes, you're a top 5 player in the world. Like, that's just kind of the cutoff for top 5 guys. So DJ and JT both have done it 4 out of the last 5 years, which I think is that's unreal. When you're doubling up a guy like Rory, who's only done it twice, when you're better than Rahm, who has been, Rahm's won like 3 times each of the last 4 years, which is crazy. So that to me is kind of puts into perspective what DJ and JT have been doing. And
what's also crazy is until a couple of weeks ago, out of those 4 years, those 2 guys had 2 combined major championships.
Yeah.
Which goes to show there's only 4 of them a year.
Yep.
And they're hard to win. And there's a lot of guys vying for them. And you can be historically great and you can be historically better than the rest of your peers. These things are still hard to win.
A month ago, Jimmy Walker and DJ had the same number of majors.
Are you telling me they're not the same type of player?
They're a little different.
All right, boys. Let's wrap with this. Player of the year. Are we going to get a consensus? This has got to be a clean sweep, right? I'm not sure how much debate there is here, Mark.
There's no debate as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if you're not thinking Dustin Johnson, then you sort of halfway unhinged and making a Bernd Wiesberger versus Christian Besaidnout kind of a bet.
This is never going to end for
me. I know.
Yeah, it's DJ. I mean, DJ. The way he did it, what he did. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, I also think, to go back to even like our biggest surprise, the fact that Rory didn't win is kind of crazy. DJ gets a couple of them, adds another. Like, it's DJ, Greg. It's DJ.
It's hands down DJ. Now, if you want to go back and look at the PGA Tour season, which includes the wraparound beforehand and ends before the U.S. Open and the Masters and all that, you have a debate. But once you extend into for the calendar year, the debate is over. And Dustin Johnson has accelerated past everybody else in a group where, there's a really tight group of guys vying for the spot of world number 1. And Dustin Johnson said, well, you can try again next year, but you're probably not going to have any luck then either. He showed us who the best player in the world is. And he stands out head and shoulders now. There's no more bouncing around, bouncing back and forth. He seems like he's here to stay now.
Kyle Porter, you're always good for a spicy take or 2, but I'm not sure you've got a spicy one here.
The spiciest thing I have on this is that DJ and Rahm actually finished tied in strokes gained for the whole year. But when you stack up everything else DJ did, It's not close. I mean, he is the amount of world rankings points that he's ahead of Rory, who's I think 4th or 5th, is the same as Rory is ahead of like the 80th guy in the world. So he's boat racing everybody. I mean, it's unreal. And yeah, his top 10 at all the majors, won the Masters. It's not close.
I'm looking forward to the day that the PGA Tour scorecard at the bottom right-hand corner, where it has the total block, right underneath there has a strokes gained block as well. That's going to be the day that it will stand out in my memory.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's a normalized score, so technically they already have that.
Well, it wasn't normalized results. Let's. I wish we could get a picture of DJ's mantle and John Rahm's mantle, and then we'll talk further.
Yeah, I mean, I just said wins matter, so we agree.
We do.
There you go. 2020 Superlatives. Hat tip to producer Jacob for all the help with the tweets and all the great categories. If you're listening, you might want to check it out on YouTube as well. Let me thank Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS for all those spicy tweets. Mark Immelman at Mark_Immelman. Greg DuCharme at The Real GFD. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.